everyone, welcome back to the biology online class. Today we are going to start a new lesson, the respiratory system. You may wonder, already we learned about the respiration in plants. What do we learn in this lesson? We are going to learn about human respiration in this lesson. So we will be learning about the respiratory system in detail. Before that, we need to go with a quick recap of whatever we know about respiration. So first, as an introductory part, we need to know the definition of respiration. First, let me tell you that when we are sitting simply, what do? The first foremost thing when an organism is alive or when an animal is alive, the first foremost thing that we can notice is the animal used to breathe. Right? What is breathing? Taking in a gas, most probably oxygen, and they will be leaving out carbon dioxide, right? So what happens to this gas when it enters into our body? When oxygen enters into our body, along with oxygen, maybe carbon dioxide will also be there, but oxygen will be taken in at cellular level. This oxygen will be used up by the cell, especially by an organelle called mitochondria. This mitochondria will utilize this oxygen to liberate energy which was bound in the food. So food is completely oxidized or burnt to release energy. The form of energy what we are obtaining is ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, the same as in plants. So the process of respiration is very similar to the plants. And we need to say most of the aerobic organisms respire in the same way. I'm talking about the cellular respiration. The difference lies in the way of breathing. So breathing is the first step of respiration, and then respiration occurs at cellular level, which is a very common, very similar process which occurs in all organisms, especially all aerobic organisms. So what is respiration? So respiration is a chemical process which is used in organisms to release energy which was bound in food by simple oxidation of the food. Right? How can we define it? Respiration is a chemical process of releasing energy by breaking down glucose for carrying out life processes. You have this definition very clearly in your book. You need to learn the definition. And what are the characteristics of respiration? Respiration, or the steps of respiration, occurs at cellular level. In each and every live cell, respiration has to occur. So this happens at cellular level in the organelle called mitochondria. And the respiration is actually an enzymatic process. There are so much of reactions are there. The series of chemical reactions involved in respiration steps in respiration process. And each and every chemical reaction requires a specific particular enzyme, right? So these enzymes are found in the cells. They are produced in the cells. They are being synthesized in the cell itself, and they are very specific too. What is the meaning of the word very specific? As like we teachers are very specific, right? A biology teacher will teach you biology, a physics teacher will teach you physics. We are very specific. We are not changing our work. As the same way, enzymes are so specific. The enzyme which is doing the first respiration will never go to do the second respiration. For second respiration, another enzyme will be there. If there is an reaction of hydrogenation, hydrogenase enzyme will be there. Oxidation, oxidase enzymes will be there. So enzymes are so specific in respiration. And by the end of respiration, energy is released in the form of ATP, which is the universal energy form for almost all the organisms, especially aerobic organisms. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. This is the very common form of energy which can a cell use. And this respiration steps, as I said before, it's very similar for all aerobic organisms. The same way how does this happen in a plant, the same way it's going to happen in an animal cell too, because it's going to happen in the cell cytoplasm and also in the mitochondrial matrix and mitochondrial membrane. So this is going to be a very similar step in all the organisms, right? And the next thing what we are going to learn is, why do we need energy? Why? What is the reason for respiration? Why our cell has to do this respiration? Why each and every cell is obtaining oxygen? Why do they need energy? What they are going to do with the energy? Right? That's a common doubt. You need to think each and every metabological activity occurs in the cellular level, because the cell is the structural and functional unit of an organism. Each and every function occurs in the cell. Each and every design or the shape of each and every organism is maintained from the cell. So that is the need for energy. The cell has to be maintained as it is. Synthesis of organic compounds, for example, like a protein, has to be built in our body. We are taking in food and the food has to be digested. What happens at the time of digestion? When we eat carbohydrate, that will be broken down into glucose or any other sugar molecules. If we are taking in protein, that will be break down into amino acids. So they are the basic unit of protein. So protein will be converted into amino acids, and the fat, lipids, this will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So fat by the end of digestion will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So these compounds will be found in the cell cytoplasm whenever our body requires some amount of protein, or when our body requires some fatty acids. Again, this will be synthesized in our body. Not all kind of protein are synthesized by our body, but majority, right? Our body will be synthesizing protein. Our body will be synthesizing nucleic acids. Each and every cell is having its own DNA. At the time of cell duplication, DNA has to be duplicated. So that DNA has to be built in our body. Let me talk about the cell level itself. One cell is going to divide into two cells. At the time of cell division, one cell has to be multiplied into two cells. At that time, the cell membrane has to be produced. Right? One cell will pinch off into two cells. Later the cell will grow in size. At the time of repairing, you can say, at the time of the body repairing, for example, like we got a wound and the wound has to be healed, at that time new cell formation will happen in our body. So in these times, protein is very necessary. Nucleic acids are very, very necessary. So synthesis of organic compounds require too much energy. And the second thing, production of enzymes. Just now I said about the importance of enzymes. Each and every enzymes are so specific. All these enzymes will not be available directly or may not be taken into the body through food or some other source. Enzymes has to be majoritarily produced by our body, by the cells. So they require energy to produce enzymes. Contraction of muscles for movement. We learn about skeletal system. The bone will not move by its own in an animal when it needs to move. So the muscles has to contract and relax simultaneously to move the bone. So to contract the muscles, the muscle cells require too much of energy. You all know that when you want to run, when you want to go on trekking, you need too much of energy, right? Yes. And then conduction of electrical impulse in a nerve cell. How many of you know that there is there is a flow of electricity inside our body, in the brain? So the nerve cell is having some electrical impulse. It will be producing some electrical impulse. It would conduct the nerve impulse in the form of electricity. A very minute voltage of electricity will be there inside our body too. So from where this electricity is being produced? From the energy what our cell possess. So nerve cell require too much of energy to conduct this electrical impulse or just to create this electrical impulse. And as I said, at the time of repairing or at the time of growth, we need to produce new cells. A small baby, when it is moving into a young adult, when it is growing as a young adult, the cells has to be produced, more number of cells has to be produced. Division of cell occurs. So at that time we require too much of energy. And in last lesson we learn about thermoregulation. So to perform thermoregulation we need energy, right? Yes. And when compared with plants, animals require too much of energy. Why so? What's so special in animals? Of course, plants do need energy, but when compared with plants, animals require too much of energy because the form of energy itself, the food itself, we are deriving from some other organism. We are not producing food as like plants. We are heterotrophs. So we need to get energy from outside. So you just imagine when you are sitting in a place, what are the different area you're spending energy? Your brain will think something. You can't sit simply, right? You will be thinking something. Some people have a habit of sitting quiet without even thinking anything, but I can't do, right? Generally we people used to think something. Even when we are sleeping, our brain will be thinking something. That's what dream. So we need to spend energy even if we are sitting lazy. The heart is working, the heart is pumping its blood throughout the blood cells, and each and every cell is doing its function even if we are sitting idle. So to consume food, we need to open the mouth, we need to introduce the food into our mouth with the help of our hands. So we are using our muscles, bone, muscular system, and we are using our brain. The brain is commanding the hand to move the food from the plate to the mouth. So a lot of work is going on. So we need energy as we are heterotrophs. And animals require too much energy because they need to move, they need to locomote. Why do they locomote? They need to go on in search of food because we need to survive, right? They need to go for hunt, they need to go for to capture their prey. So they need to locomote. So they need too much of energy because they need to move. And we need to digest the food what we are taking from outside. It doesn't belongs to us, but we are taking it from outside. At the time of digestion, we require too much of energy. As I said, the food has to be grinded. So we are using our teeth, tongue, saliva is there, enzymes are there. And the body is doing this, digestive tract is doing a movement, that is peristaltic movement will occur. Inside the body, inside this esophagus, all these organelles, all these structures are moving continuously to move the food down. So that movement requires too much of energy. So digestion itself is requiring too much of energy. And to take care of the young one, because animals, have you ever think of this? The animals, they have to protect their young one, they need to feed their young one, they have to take care of the young one. But look at a plant, it will just give the seed, that's it. The seed will develop its own root, it will do its own photosynthesis, right? But for animals, it's not like that. In mammals, especially, they need to feed the young one. They need to get the blood out of their mammary gland. They have to convert that into food, milk, and then this milk will be suckled by the young one, and this milk will be utilized by the young one to be growing into a normal healthy one. So to take care of young one, we animals require too much of energy. And as I said, now to perform thermoregulation, if you are in a hot summer day, the body has to make itself into a cool one. Or if you are staying in a winter place, your body has to feel the warmth. So that is performed by our liver. The liver cell will be producing too much heat. The muscle cell will be producing heat by doing some shivering actions or something, like whatever we discussed in the skin lesson. So heat has to be produced by our body cells to make our body warmth. So these are the major areas where we need too much of energy when compared with plants, right? And what is the major source of respiratory substrates? What is that respiratory substrate? On which food respiration occurs? Glucose is actually the only substrate, only common usable substrate for almost all organisms. This glucose will follow the pathway like glycolysis, oxidative carboxylation of pyruvic acid, Krebs cycle, and electron transport system. You just turn the page into lesson 7. You can find it out, these 4 different steps of respiration. Glucose is the one which follows this pathway of respiration. Then what happens to the protein? We generally used to go on with protein rich food, right? If a person is a complete non-vegetarian person, a flesh eating person, for example like a tiger, or a human who is completely a non-vegetarian, they will be eating too much of protein from the animals. Like if they are eating meats, if they are eating the flesh of another animal, protein will be very high in their food. So what happens to the protein? This protein will be digested completely into its basic structural part, that is amino acid. And this amino acid in the liver will be undergoing a process called deamination. These are all not there in your text, you can make a note of it. This amino acids will undergo a process called deamination in the liver. D stands for removal, amination stands for the amino group, amino part, this NH3 part. So this amino acid will be converted into pyruvic acid, and that amino part will be completely separated. This pyruvic acid, remember this term pyruvic acid? This will go combine with the pathway which glucose generally takes up. And this amino part, which is known as the nitrogenous part of food, will be expelled through urea, which is the general creatinine formation. You all may have heard about creatinine, right? Have you ever heard of creatinine? At the time of blood testing, there will be a column to know about creatinine. Okay, so this creatinine is nothing but the nitrogenous part, which is from the protein. And what happens to the fats? Fat will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol, and these fatty acids will be converted into acetyl coenzyme, and the glycerol will be converted into glyceraldehyde molecule, and these 2 molecules will be combining with the glucose in its pathway. Okay, in glycolysis pathway, in Krebs cycle pathway, they will go combine with. So even though we are saying glucose is the only pathway, the other molecules, other substrates, other respiratory substrate like protein and fat may also be converted into some of the simpler products which will be joining with the pathway of glucose. Okay, they will also be taking part in respiration. Got it clear? Is it enough? So in today's class, what are the things I taught you? First, you need to know what is respiration, and then you need to know the characteristics of respiration, the 5 different characteristics of respiration. And then you need to know why do we need energy, and why do animals need more energy, and is glucose the only alternate, or whether glucose is having any other alternate for respiration. Yes, right, even though we are saying glucose is the only substrate, the other elements like protein and fat will also be converted into some of the simpler molecules, and which will be later joining into the same pathway as of glucose. Okay, so I guess this is enough for today's class. Now it's time for your homework. So you need to read the text, page number 1 and 2 of lesson 14. Don't leave anything, because these are the part where we can ask section B questions. Okay, so you have to read the text so clearly and underline wherever you feel like it's good to read, because it's about your body, right? Thank you, kids. Stay safe at home and complete the homework on time. Thank you. Bye. Take care.